Else.
Rome. Diamonds.
This month, I think probably the highlight for me has been going to see The Batman.
Oh yes, we went to see that together.
We did indeed, and it was good. It was it was so good that we're thinking probably of doing an episode at some point on it. But I think I was struck by the fact that it was the film I really hoped it would be. In so much as my first Batman story was actually it's a story called Batman Year Two. It's not the most famous of the canon. People often point to Year One or the Dark Knight Returns and various other, the Killing Joke, this kind of thing. But Year Two was the first book I came across. It's dark, it's gritty, it's grim, it's gory. It's a Batman learning to be in the city and people learning what it's like to have this dark vigilante in their midst. And it starts out in that book with with a gang coming back from a heist. They've just basically stolen electrical goods from they've gone looting, I think in a power cut or something, and there's a TV on in the corner that's talking about who is the Batman, what's going on there. Like, don't worry, man, I've left the TV on just so people think someone's home.
I like the fact you read who is the Batman in the like Christian Bale voice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why you want to kill
Christian
me?
Bale.
Why you want to kill me? Swear to me. No, but and I always thought it was really funny that the thieves were saying to each other, "Don't worry, I've left the TV on so people think someone's home." And they go in, their lights aren't working. Because they're not suffering from the power cut, but nonetheless their lights aren't working, and they're like, "Oh no, what's going on?" They turn on the torch, and right in the torch beam is the Batman logo, because basically they've just turned it on onto Batman's chest, and he's just like, "Good evening." And then from there it's all like, "Quick, shoot him." They try and shoot him with a gun. It doesn't work. There's like a voice coming from nowhere in the room. It's like, "If you put your faith in guns, you've already lost." And and he beats them up, ties them up, and then jumps out the window and swings away. And it's that sort of in medias res, in the middle of the story. We're meeting this Batman who is scaring the crap out of criminals, and that's exactly what the beginning of the Batman was, wasn't it? And the fact that you had them literally, light spoilers here if you haven't seen the film, literally looking into the shadows thinking, "I think I better stop. I'm going to stop now, or I'm going to turn around." And he might not even be there. They've just got to a point where they're just terrified of what could be there and the fact that he could be there. I thought that was a really great opening to the movie. And along with the internal monologue as well, actually hearing, as you do in the stories, and also Spider-Man does this as well, where you have a little text boxes that give you their internal thoughts. The film opens with him talking about his mission, what he's doing, where he's at, and what he thinks the city is like. I thought it was really good, and in that sense, it felt almost a bit like a Gumshoe movie as well, film noir kind of thing.
Yeah, so I have to say that was my favourite thing about the fact it was a kind of noir detective story that I really liked. I enjoyed kind of the atmospheric elements of it, the fact that it was pretty much all dark. You were constantly kind of in the shadows, kind of with the Batman. And I kind of also liked that we didn't see much of Bruce Wayne, because I don't really like him. Like,
no,
I know they're the same person, but I just find I find that is just uninteresting to me. And I understand why it's necessary and blah, blah, blah. But to me, it was kind of like nice to stay with the dark, the Batman, and kind of watch him kind of solve mysteries. And, and I liked the fact that when he got beaten up, he passed out and he wasn't like as super as he has been in previous, renditions where he can probably survive a tank missile or something, and you just think that's just not realistic. So I liked the fact that he was just kind of a man and was able to be harmed.
Yeah, well, and I feel as though, again, no spoilers, but I feel as though he starts in a place where he is just the Batman. He's abandoned Bruce Wayne in that sense. He's just angry. I'm vengeance, as he says in the trailer. And I like the fact that his Batman actually is at least 3 different iterations. There's him in the cape and cowl. There's him
Yeah.
on the prowl in a baseball cap and a hoodie,
Hmm.
and then there's him on his bike when so basically it means that he can almost deploy himself to different parts of the city without being in a cape and cowl and having people point at him. It was a very tactical kind of way of doing it, and
Yeah.
crucially, I think it gave him in the film somewhere to go. I think probably the next film, I think they've announced that production is going to start soon. The next film will actually probably have more Bruce, because he's kind of learned that actually without Bruce,
Yeah, but
for
that
example,
immediately makes it less interesting to me.
no, but
I'm
the thing,
afraid.
no, the thing is, it doesn't have to be. In so much as without Bruce, it's like the money side of things can be abused. It can go haywire, and the city can feed off.
Yeah, okay.
off
That. Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So actually,
I still like Bruce in there.
no, I get it, and so as you say, this was a treat if you're not a fan of Bruce. But I feel as though actually they've given us a reason now to understand why he has to do the Bruce thing.
Oh yeah,
If you know what I mean.
yeah. No, that's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I would also say as well, like I really liked the Riddler, and like it was very clear to me in some ways that the Riddler was kind of inspired by, again, light spoilers, but was inspired by kind of serial
Zodiac.
killers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but not just the Zodiac. There was other kind of bits and pieces thrown in there, but I quite liked that his, again, it was not camped up, it was sinister, it was very nasty. And I also, again, well, this is probably a big spoiler, but so sorry, but I'm going to say it anyway, it's important for my point. So I really liked at the end the Riddler coming to the conclusion that Batman was the real face and that it didn't matter who he was behind that visage. But that was then also the moment, wasn't it, that Batman realized he needed Bruce Wayne.
Yes. Yeah.
I loved that duplicity happening at the same time, like one character's twisting one way and the other's twisting in exactly the opposite way as a response to that. And I just thought that was so clever.
Yeah, no, it was, and the fact that you have a Batman who comes to understand that the city needs more than just an angry person. I thought it was good, and the fact that just an angry person is basically the Riddler, or is anyone else who might come along. So. I thought it was good. I thought it was clever. I thought the music was very good. The sound was astonishing. Like just when the Batmobile
I loved
started.
the Nirvana and stuff. Like I was so into it.
Mm-hmm.
I was so into that. I was really enjoyed the soundtrack. Sorry, when the Batmobile.
Well. Just on that touch, actually, on that note, yeah, the Nirvana, Something in the Way, which was in the trailer, but also literally in the film as the song, which is interesting. The fact that they brought out things like cues from that song and orchestrated them, and then also as well, Ave Maria played a big role as well.
Yes, it did.
Both in choral form, wind instrument, and also actually even in drums. At one point, there was timpanis doing the Ave Maria notes in the soundtrack. Very quite a good complex soundtrack. Some people have criticised it for being, they sort of say, oh, it's just the Imperial March, da, 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 that kind of thing. I don't think that's the case. I think no, it was a much more complicated soundtrack than that. I mean, yes, there is the boom, 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 but that's there because it accompanies these heavy footsteps that just scare the crap out of people. So it's meant to be overwhelming.
I definitely didn't think it was as heavy-handed as the Imperial March. No. I thought there was a lot more subtlety to it. And I can tell why, like, there were some bits where there was kind of comparisons to that, but I do think they were like in keeping with what was happening on screen and not overpowering what was actually happening. So I wouldn't agree.
No, I don't agree either. But then, in terms of the sound design, the punches, the hits were heavy. You felt, even though the fighting wasn't as choreographed and smooth as we've seen in previous Batman movies, I think that adds to the...
That again was stuff that I wanted, really. I mean, I'm probably in the minority. I know everybody loves Marvel and superheroes, but I just feel like it's too slick, and it's just like, oh, it's boring. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, they're going to make some kind of fourth wall breaks. They're going to talk to this audience. They're going to make some jokes, and then they're going to do some slick fighting moves that are like, could be dance moves for how much choreographed they've gone. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That whole realm has just kind of lost me. And it's not that I can't sit down and enjoy a Marvel film. Like, I can. I'm like, and they're not terrible. They're just, I have no love for them anymore.
No, that's. I mean, we continue to enjoy the stories, especially when they're interwoven with the TV series on Disney Plus for Marvel. But I know what you mean. And in this instance,
To clarify, it's we, Mark and his wife.
sorry, yeah. But also, I feel as though the Street Fighter feeling here was interesting. The assistant to Bruce has gone off and trained with ninjas. I think they hint that he's trained with Alfred, and Alfred used to be in the, because when he said, when I used to work for the circus, that's a reference to MI6. Yeah. So he was a British.
I only know that because of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah. No, exactly.
But that has taught me well.
It has taught you well. So yeah, I think the violence was grounded and it was very good. But also it did have, like I say, the near mythical elements. I mean, Pattinson has said that he drew on. There's a Batman story called Shaman, actually, Batman Shaman. So the shamanistic side of being a symbol and being in the dark and being almost in the minds of other people, a sort of quasi supernatural being. So it was walking that line between. The criminals think he's a ghost, but he's clearly a human being, and we're seeing this human being. He's got some brilliant armor, but he can be roughed up. That's quite cool. But then coming back to just the sound point, just the noise of the Batmobile when it started up, it really worked as a distraction, because actually in the comics, the vehicles the Batman uses. So we've been going on for 13 minutes now on this topic. Okay.
This doesn't surprise me about your enthusiasm to talk about this, to be honest.
It's okay. We'll get into the topic in a second. But in the comics, the cars and the planes in particular that he uses, he can choose when it makes a ridiculous amount of noise. Like in the planes, the technology is that he's using almost like the audio cancelling that earphones use. You can put out a counter frequency to the engines to be quiet, as it were, to be quieter. And then if he wants to, he can make it sound as though, I think in the Red Hood graphic novel, Red Hood is thinking, it's a former Robin gone astray. He's driving a car, he's being chased by Batman in the plane. And he's like, if Bruce wants to, he can make it sound like hell is coming down on you, and that's exactly what the car, because it acts as a distraction. Again, no specific spoilers, but something's about to happen, and suddenly,
I have to say, it was just amazing. I again don't care about the vehicles.
No, but
literally don't care.
No, but it's not.
I could have had the whole film without any of the chase scenes, and I would have been equally as happy.
I know. I'm not just. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I do love the Batmobiles. I love the iterative design of them. But more to the point, in that instance, I was impressed by the use of the effect of the sound. So I mean, it was a choice to turn on the engine at that point and stop someone potentially injuring someone else, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, I have to say, don't care.
That's fine.
That was just like, I just turned on the car. Okay, we're gonna have a chase scene. I'll just sit back and tune out slightly for a moment.
Oh, but it wasn't. It wasn't just that. It was also all of the little. It was a good sound.
And you're allowed to enjoy it as much as you do, and that's totally fine. And I am allowed to just put up with it while it plays through.
I should also be clear as well, I don't feel that way about real life cars. I wouldn't want my car to make a noise like that. But anyway, before we start talking about my neighbour being a loud engine,
I was thinking we were going to mention the neighbour.
No, we won't mention the neighbour. But anyway,
shall I have a brief discussion on what I was watching? That I thought was fun to tell you about. Have you seen Mystery Men?
Yes.
Yep. So I've watched a couple of other things at least this week, but that one was the one that like tickled me, that I thought I would share. And
it's a good counterpoint, definitely to the Batman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I found it online for like, I think it was 99p, and I was like, get in my basket, and I bought it on DVD. And I still very, very much enjoy the whole sequence about, I can't remember his name, Invisible Boy or something, where he goes invisible only when nobody's watching him.
Yes.
And I'm like, how does he know that he goes invisible? And apparently he just tingles. And I'm like, yeah, but how would you know that tingling was being invisible? You just know.
Yeah.
Makes no logical sense. And that is part of the joy of it for me.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoy seeing superheroes just
being a bit silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got your digger hero. There's the girl with the bowling ball.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
Although it annoys me that it's called Mystery Men.
Yeah.
And she's not a man.
That's true.
And
mystery
she's fine
people.
with that.
Yeah.
Or just mystery group, just a non-gendered group would be great, because there are more genders than men. That might be news to some people.
That's true. So what? There are.
Oh, don't start, 'cause I'll go off on a rant, and then I'll just be like, that will be the next hour and a half of me talking about like feminism and gender and everything. So let's not do that, because that is not what this podcast is about. You've just pressed a button. I can see it in your face. I can see it in your face. You're like full of mischief.
Yeah.
Stop it now. Stop it now.
I've just flipped the safety hatch on a big red button.
No. Listen, that's another podcast if we start that topic.
Okay, well, it's high time we actually get into the topic of the day.
Yes. My realm is the present.
More than anything else in her life, she wants to see Paris.